Hi, this is Jeff from the Ozark Mountains. That's in Missouri, USA. And today I've got kind of a funny accessory here. I don't know exactly what it is. As you might be able to guess, because I have the Epson HX-20 sitting out here, it has something to do with that computer. And in fact, it is an Epson HX-20 expansion unit connected to some sort of other little box and some kind of sensor. I'm not exactly sure what this is. It showed up on eBay and a friend of mine sent me the link and it was inexpensive enough. I thought, you know, I'm so curious, I'm going to go ahead and buy this and we'll take it apart and try to guess at what it does. Let's get started. Here are just a few of the circuit boards I've had made recently by PCBWay, who is nice enough to sponsor this video. So whether you need a few boards or a lot of boards, check out PCBWay. So head on over to PCBWay and get your instant quote on standard circuit boards, flex circuit boards, assembly, and they now also offer rapid prototyping, so you can get your mechanical parts made as well. That's an awesome service. So for your next project, head on over to PCBWay. Well, here is a little closer view at this strange accessory. So we have our HX-20 expansion unit, which looks pretty standard, except it has a hole here for this cable. And that goes to this little box. I'm guessing this is an aluminum box. And there are no markings on it, but it was painted to match the HX-20. And there's this coily telephone cord type of thing going to an aluminum housing. You can see where this is screwed on here, and there's this little closed end pipe, so I don't know if this is a mount, if this is some active part. And let's see if we can get zoomed in here. You might just be able to see that in here there are a couple holes and some O-rings. So there's 3 O-rings, so this part must have slipped over some sort of tube or pipe. And the O-rings were meant to keep these 2 sections separated. I don't see a lot of goo or buildup in here, like this would have been something liquid that this was exposed to. So maybe this was, the O-rings were just to block light, and this was looking through some sort of glass tube or something. I don't know. Now we can also kind of guess that since this cord is short and this cord is short, that this was meant to be used right near the computer, so it must not have been something very dangerous or dirty. And there's no, other external power source for this thing. So it must be getting all the power through the HX-20, so that's going to be a limited power supply. So it's really kind of curious what this thing is. I think the first thing I'll do is pop the cover off the expansion unit itself and see what has been added in here. Maybe it's just a ROM and this is some sort of digital signal coming back into this box from this box. I don't know. Let's take that apart and have a look. To take apart this expansion unit, there are just 2 screws down here at the bottom. Got our screws out. And this is kind of a pain with that cord attached. I should just be able to lift this guy up now. Oh, wow, there is a lot of stuff in here. You can just see there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. I'm going to have to try to get this strain relief slipped out of the way. Yeah, it feels like it might be glued into place. Goodness gracious, it was just tight. See, they milled that slot in there. There was some sort of glue on it. Actually, that slot looks rather crudely done. And let's see what we have here. Cardiorespiratory Computers Party Limited, January 1985, CRC 2.2. Copyright. Oh, look. They sanded all the names off the chips. Wow, that was really roughly done, too. Actually, even the transistors. How stupid is that? Jeez. You thought that was a new thing. Okay, so we can't see what any of our chips are here, but we can kind of make an educated guess. I suspect these are going to be some sort of bus latches based on the fact we have a lot of signals coming in and out, and they're about the right size chips for that. A bunch of 10-turn pots for adjusting something. A couple big transistors for turning a couple things on and off. And notice that they've put resistors in to jumper out these ROM sockets. I'm not sure what that is. That might be a coil or a relay. There's no component designations on here. And in general, the construction looking at, from the top, the board layout and everything is kind of crap. I mean, they've got these pads for these tantalum capacitors are almost under this chip. Big blobs of solder on the wires here. This capacitor is kind of straddling across like that out in the middle of nowhere. Just not a very impressive looking board layout. And I'm not sure how we can go about getting this separated. We've got a big pass-through socket right here. There's no screws holding this board down that I can see. Yeah, it feels like the entire thing is held by this socket here. Yeah, got a piece of cardboard in there. Oh my, look at all that flux all over there. So this whole thing was hand soldered. And they didn't clean up the board at all. I mean, just look at the state of these solder joints. This is terrible. This would have been an expensive device. Medical devices always are. And there's things like little balls of solder from the soldering process all over the board. Just everywhere. It's just a horrible job. I am really shocked. I wonder if this company survived. So there's no custom firmware going on here. So they're just tapping off some address and data lines. And this is some sort of I/O board. Oh yeah, so the part number was removed off of that guy too. So I don't really know. Okay, let's try to make a guess. So we have our address and data lines here. They're all running up to these chips, which I'm pretty sure now those are bus latches. And I would guess this is some sort of analog section here. So these are going to be turning something on or receiving a signal to turn something on. And who knows what these guys are. I mean, there's like huge grooves in the tops of these chips from them scrubbing the part numbers off. Jeez. Okay, let's go ahead and take this other white box apart here. See what horrors lurk inside. So if this is a medical device, what is that sensor being slipped over and what is it measuring? We can kind of guess since it says Cardiorespiratory Computer Parties Limited. It's amazing they didn't even add a connector on this thing. Well, I guess it's not as crappy as this board is made. Oh my goodness. I wonder if this was assembled when the paint was still a little fresh. Okay. Yeah, I think so. Again with the glued-in strain relief. Okay, what do we have here? Oh, look. More part numbers scrubbed off the chips. We've got some more pots, a few other chips, some capacitors. This big capacitor just kind of bodged in there. More kind of crap looking soldering. And this circuit board is just double-sided taped into this enclosure. That is amazing. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to peel that out of there. I'll probably wind up breaking the board. So we have, I bet this is an op amp right here. Oh my gosh, it still has a part number on it. Jeez, what a crap solder. There's solder all over the edge of the enclosure right there. From them just globbing in these parts like this. That is atrocious. Okay, this part. Okay. It's kind of an in over an in logo. And the part number is S8404. You've got 4 wires going out, and at least these have some sort of ferrules crimped to them before they're soldered into the board. Red, green, blue, and white. The blue and white are going to this package. This is blue and white are probably signal in. And red and green. That looks like there's some capacitors across those 2 rails, so I'm guessing that's power. I just cannot get over how crappily this thing is made. Oh my god, and this is a medical device. Let's take this guy apart and see if we can figure out at least what the sensor is. And then maybe we can guess at what the function is, since there was no option ROM included. Whatever this was doing or reading or how it was controlling the board was all done in software. So we'll have no guess as to what that was. There we go. Open that up, and we have something powered into this sensor housing. So we have what looks like a ground wire going over here to this metal post. And we've got our 4 wires coming in here. And this is some really fancy looking circuit board for 1985. This says SENSYM, SENSYM 537. There you go, now you can see that too. We have a SENSYM 537 LX06002D. If I can find any information about this, I will pop it up here on the screen. And that whole sensor module, whatever it is glued into here with silicone. And I can see, looking in here, that that whole thing is siliconed into place. So I'm not sure we're going to be able to extract that. My suspicion would be this is some type of optical sensor, but I don't know. Here's our setup kind of laid out in total. One thing I noticed is that the piece of cardboard that they used to lay in here was a piece of the box, probably what the expansion unit came in. The level of shoddy construction just is amazing. This black wire here is going and picking up one of the chip select signals for one of the RAM chips. We've got these resistors here, which are shorting one of the data lines to VCC, so it's pulling up one of the data lines. The op-amp looking can here, it looks like maybe it's a National Semiconductor logo, but the part number isn't similar to any National Semiconductor parts. And I noticed on this board up here, this is the one in the expansion unit. It has 5 volts and 10 volts marked here. There's only 5 volts sent to the expansion unit, so there must be a charge pump voltage doubler type circuit on here somewhere. Maybe that's what this does. It's some type of encapsulated DC to DC converter, though I don't know if they made these this size in 1985. All of the ICs on this board that have the nomenclature scrubbed off of them, these were done in place. You can still see the dust all over the circuit board from this. I went ahead and I pulled this board out of the little metal case, and yes, that is packing tape over the bottom of the board, bodge wires, and double-sided tape. It's just shockingly, shockingly bad. I cannot believe this was medical equipment. Somebody actually manufactured and sold this thing as medical equipment. The only thing that looks professionally done in the slightest is the sensor. I found out that SENSYM makes pressure sensors, and this seems to be a division of Honeywell now. So I'm guessing since this thing has 2 ports in it, this is some type of differential pressure sensor. There's a little notch in the side of the thing, so maybe there's some sort of mouthpiece that goes in here, locks into place, and it has an orifice in it, and if you blow through it, it can measure the pressure drop between these 2 ports and thereby determine the flow rate and log that on the computer automatically. That is my best guess. Generally, though, medical equipment is built to a very high standard. All the parts have to be traceable to their place of origin. You can't use any shady parts. You wouldn't have the part numbers scraped off of things. I'm just really, really shocked. Out of all of this, I can desolder this wire from the expansion unit and have a spare expansion unit. No idea what all these parts are. The construction is just terrible. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I can't convey my amazement at how poorly this thing was put together. Well, I hope you've enjoyed a quick look at this shockingly terrible piece of medical equipment that was designed to hook to an Epson HX-20 back in the day. Now, back then when these, small, relatively low-cost portable computers came about, there was a lot of them that were pressed into service for laboratory instrumentation control, medical, instrumentation and things like that, because they were small, battery-powered, and, relatively cheap. Most things I've come across from this era, especially medical stuff, have been very well built, though. The state of this thing is amazing. I cannot believe this was a commercial product that was sold. And I would love to know if anybody has any information about this company, which is Cardiorespiratory Computers Party Limited. If you know anything about that company, I would be very interested. I can't imagine that they survived. Not with the state of this thing. It's really, really terrible. Anyhow, it was kind of a little bit of an interesting electronics archaeology dig. And I guess I've got a few spare parts. Some of the 10-turn pots and the expansion unit itself are good. These boards, not so much. I'd like to take a moment to say thanks to everyone who helps support the channel through Patreon and other means. Your support really keeps this channel going, and I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, well, leave them in the comments section down below. I would love to hear from you. And if you're a subscriber, thank you. I really appreciate it. That helps out a lot, and it's very encouraging to see that subscriber count grow. If you're not, if you look down below, you'll see a rectangular box that says subscribe in there. Well, click on that, dude, and you'll be subscribed to the channel. Then if you click on that bell-shaped icon, YouTube will be nice enough to let you know just as soon as I post a new video. Well, until next time, bye.